Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. And what you're about to see is a pre-recorded training session we did over in the United States. But be assured that a lot of the material that we cover is really applicable to any automotive application. So just be aware that yes, it is a lot of North American vehicles, but they will apply a lot of the same principles apply over in the UK as well. Now, if you do have any questions, if you're watching this during the premiere, you can just leave it in the chat. We'll be monitoring live chat. If you're watching this after the premiere, then just feel free to leave a comment underneath the video and we'll get to those as we can as well. So my name is Jason Gabrenas. I'm one of Snap-on's diagnostic technical trainers. I've been in the training department since 2013, traveling around North America, helping techs and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment. Before I did that, it was a couple years as a diagnostic sales rep at Snap-on, so I had 30 different franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they serviced, in order to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before I did that, it was 8 years at Subaru. So I worked in a dealership, and over time, I guess, just became the default Diag guy in the shop. So I always ended up having the drivability problems, the intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that would show up on those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type cars that would come into my bed. Then before that, a bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been a little over 25 years under hood experience for me. Our topic today is diagnostics comparisons. We're going to compare between medium versus light duty vehicles and even versus heavy duty vehicles, because there's a couple different tools that you would need to use between them. They are configured differently. They're set up differently. You'll get similar information, but sometimes one type of tool might be better suited for the type of vehicle you're working on. And when we get really kind of into the weeds is when we get down to the medium duty vehicles, where your class 4s and 5s and 6s, where it's not a big rig, it's bigger than a 1-ton truck, but what do I use? And sometimes the configuration would be a little. So we think about building just the general automobile, right? Like this Impala right here, right? So it's a GM vehicle. So in 99% of the cases, it's going to be a GM engine, a GM transmission, and a GM axles in there. So it's all going to be made by the same manufacturer, generally in the same factory, and all that. Now there's some vehicles where maybe it's got a different engine, but we're not talking about that. Generally an automobile is going to be made by one manufacturer. It's going to be one thing, and that's it, one source. Now, when it comes to a commercial vehicle, a large truck, the purchaser, whoever it happens to be, is going to specify what make they want and then what parts they want on a build sheet. So you can select from these different engines, these different transmissions, and then they're assembled with those specific parts to whatever the person ordering it wants. For example, if I have a heavy duty truck, it could have a Cat, Cummins, Detroit, Mercedes, Mack, or Volvo engine. Could be a Kenworth body, could be a Peterbilt body, could be an Allison Eaton, Mack Merritt, or Spicer Tremec, or what have you transmission, Bendix or Merritt or brakes. Does it have 4 channels? Does it have 6 channels? Eaton Fuller rear end, Dana Spicer, whatever it happens to be. All of these things could be in a large truck because they're spec'd out to whatever the truck buyer needs. Maybe there's a certain engine that's more durable for whatever they're doing. Maybe they're in hilly country, so they need a different type of engine for that, or a different type of transmission, right? So it's spec'd to the manufacturer. And this comes into play a little bit later when we talk about the heavy duty scan tool and how it works going into the vehicle. Then we get to the medium vehicles. So a lot of times it's going to be one OEM. So Ford F550 is probably going to be mostly Ford parts, but there could be some non-OEM components, like maybe air brakes. Maybe they wanted to add a Bendix air brake system to it at an upfitter, and you still could. So when you get into this range of above maybe like an F350, it's Silverado 3500, that sort of vehicle, it's going to get maybe a little gray. Having our different vehicle classes, right? So it goes all the way from class 1 to class 8. So class 1, 6,000 pounds or less. That's going to be like Ford Ranger, little pickup truck. Class 2, and just to kind of keep it straight in your head, and it pretty much works out this way. if you think about the number of the model of the truck. So say it was a Ford, we'd have an F-150 for class 1, F-250 for class 2, F-350 for class 3, and so on and so forth, up to a 750, which is there. Now, class 8 is going to be pretty much relegated to your tractor trailers, things with dual rear axles, cement mixers, giant dump trucks, big things, 33,001 pounds GVW to weigh, whatever it happens to be is considered a class 8 truck. All right. So when we get into this middle ground, because if you're using a snap-on scan tool, Zeus or a Solus or an Apollo or a Triton or Modus or what have you, they're going to cover class 1 through 5. We're going to be able to see, F550s in there, 5500 series Rams in there. But when it gets into like box trucks, Isuzus, things like that, he knows no. So that's why we have another tool that's out there as well, which would be the ProLink series. So that's Snap-on branded too. And that'll cover the whole range from class 1 to class 8 with a big but. But it doesn't necessarily have all the capabilities of these tools when it comes down to these lower classes, class 5 and below. You're probably going to have way more capability with the Snap-on light duty scanners versus doing light and medium truck with the ProLink. Now, when it comes to heavy duty trucks, absolutely, that's definitely the way to go. So we take an example. This is out of the coverage guide on the light and medium truck software in the ProLink. They cover from 99 to 2021. So right there, it's going to be any older vehicles you're not going to be able to cover, which is fine. And it goes up to 2021. And then you'll see, due to how the tool handles scanning a vehicle, because it usually does it by system. So these are the different engines that are covered. And it's most of your big ones, 6.7 Cummins and a Dodge. GM, quite a few of the engines there too, even all the Duramaxes. Some brake and transmission stuff you'll get out of there, a little bit of airbag body and such. Isuzu it'll cover, like your MPRs. Fords by engine, a little bit of brakes and transmission in these as well. Navistar, and then Workhorse. So all the different engines that could be in those vehicles. Based by engines. It's going to be mostly engine stuff when it comes to the ProLink. And then if you need to get into body modules, ADAS, stuff like that, it's going to be more hit or miss with those. And then as far as it comes with the larger vehicles, the heavy trucks, Cummins engines, International engines, Detroit, Caterpillar, Hino. There's your light and medium truck, Volvo Mack, PACCAR, ABS, which would be Bendix, Eaton, Wabash, Haldex, and Labco. Allison transmissions, PSI engines. That's everything that would be available all in one master kit. Now you can also, the other difference between this tool and maybe like a Zeus or a Triton or an Apollo is you pick and choose which ones you want. So if you buy the master kit, that's the entire, comes with everything. Or you can just get the starter kit, which comes with generic OBD, and then you can add on, well, I only work on Cummins engines, then you can just get Cummins. Right? So it's kind of a piecemeal approach, but when you buy it, you own it, which is nice too. There's no subscription involved with that, and it's considerably less than if you were to buy factory software from all the other manufacturers. It's pretty well comparable in performance. So how do I know what tool I'm going to need to use? Well, the first thing is going to be, well, what plug are we using? What connector do we have? We have our 6-pin J1587, which is pretty popular. That's the older protocol on trucks, but it could also be used for brake systems, air brake, stuff like that. The J1939 is the newer 9-pin connector. That's any truck with a can and things like that. And then we get OBD2, which is going to be your general light and medium duty vehicles. So you could get feasibly a medium duty truck that has both an OBD2 port and maybe a J1587 port for air brakes, or a J1939 port for something else, whatever it happens to be. So that'll be your first indication as to what kind of tool you need to use. If you want the most capability, it's going to be Solus, Apollo, Triton, Zeus, those types of tools with the OBD2 port. The other two, it's going to be best used with the ProLink. So if you have one with both, maybe you might need both. depending on what you're trying to diagnose. And then the codes are built different as well. So OBD2, we know the codes. We have our P codes, B codes, C codes, U codes. And then within those codes, we have our subsets with all of the numbers, right? So P0, 1, 2s are fuel and air metering, P03s are ignition system, 04s are auxiliary, 05s are vehicle speed and idle, 06 is computer and auxiliary, 7, 8, 9 are transmission. And then when we get into the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, codes specific to those types of systems in there as well. So that's kind of how they lay them out. And I think if you've been working in automotive long enough, you would be fairly familiar with that. You know, P codes, B codes, C codes. When it comes to trucks, though, they are separated out. There's different numbers. Right? So we have our mid, which is our message ID. I think of it as module ID, right? So what module is sending this message? PID, which is our parameter ID, which is pretty much the same thing as you would think about data PIDs. And then, or you could use a SID, which is a subsystem ID. So if it's calling a code out of a subsystem. And then FMI, which is a failure mode indicator. So that's any number 0 to 15. It's going to indicate if it's open, if it's short, if it's bad message, whatever it happens to be. There's 16 different variants that they will use across the board with that. And like I said, that's the older protocol with the 6-pin. Then if we get into J1939, they're laid out fairly similarly. So we have our SA, which is our source address, which would be the module, so engine, transmission, whatever. SPN is going to be your suspect parameter number, which would be my coolant temp sensor, my oxygen sensor. FMI is going to be your failure mode indicator, and that's once again 0 through 15, open, short, etc. So the codes are laid out a little bit differently. We'll look at Shopkey in a little while and see how we would have to look those up as well. It's going to be a little bit different depending on the vehicle that you have. So let's do a little comparison. You said this class is about diagnostic comparison, right? So we hook up to a 2018 Ram 4500, both with the ProLink and then with a Zeus, and we'll see the differences between the two. So on the ProLink, after the main menu, you're going to hit vehicle scan, and then you can do a heavy duty scan or a light and medium truck scan. So of course, this is a light or medium truck. So we'll go in here. It's going to scan the vehicle and try to identify it. It'll see it's OBD2. And then you need to choose which application of the light and medium truck you're going to load. So it could be GM, Isuzu, Ford, Workhorse, Dodge, Ram, Navistar, OBD2, generic, and Hummer. Actually, Hummer's in there as well, because we actually use these. We would send these overseas during the wars to work on the Hummers there. So take that as you will with the durability of the tool, right? If they're sending those over there. So of course, this is a Dodge Ram, so we're going to choose that. Then we just hit OK down the bottom. And then it's going to say, okay, which modules on this vehicle do you want to load? And you can pick up to 6, and well, there's only one, the engine. So we'll go into engine. And also, this is a secure vehicle gateway vehicle. So we would need to set up through auto auth and through our Snap-on account, just like we would with a Zeus or a Triton or Apollo. This one was all set up, so we go through and it allows you in. It's going to land on the first page, and it's going to tell you any faults on the vehicle. Now, in this case, we have no active faults, no inactive faults. This is just a known good vehicle. We just hooked up just to compare. Now, as far as modules, we'll go into engine first. You'll see there are other modules on the vehicle. There are 8 modules detected that are supported by this vehicle. And then we have the first thing it's going to do when you plug into a module is it's going to list all the data categories that we have. So if we go into, like, say, engine data, we can see we get, a few PIDs. All the PIDs on the vehicle are going to be sorted across, I think, like 15 or 16 or 20 different categories. I didn't count them. But there's a lot of different categories here. There's, it could be 10 or 20 or 3 PIDs, depending on the category. So it's got a fair amount of PIDs in there for coverage. If we go to transmission, same thing, got a bunch of different data categories. ABS, you're going to have a few. BCM, fewer. Gateway, even fewer. Cluster, airbag, trailer brake control module, steering column, right? So we get down to that amount of data. Then it goes to calibration. So that'd be like my functional test, bidirectional controls, things like that. So only engine. And then in there we have change vehicle functionality. So there's a couple different functions that you can change, enable and disable. Since it is a Cummins in this particular vehicle, we have a lot of there's some carryover with the Cummins in this one. So in this particular instance, you're going to have maybe a few more capabilities that you wouldn't have on the light duty tool, like setting road speeds and stuff like that, which you can't do with a Zeus or a Triton. But the light duty tools are going to give you more actual functional tests instead of just that. And if we get down to tests, you see we got engine, transmission, ABS, and cluster. So we got our input output controls, which are going to be our bidirectional controls, lift pump relay on and off, that sort of thing. And then routines like a DPF regen, SCR, cat efficiency test, etc. So these are all tests that you would also find in a light duty vehicle. Transmission is just going to be your bidirectionals, ABS, same thing, different valves. Cluster is going to have a self-test. So that's what's available. And then as far as it presents data, what it does is you can choose the data you want to record, and then it'll put it over here, and then it will also do an overlay graph, which can be good or bad, I guess, depending on how you like viewing data, but it does record it all. You have to tell it to record, and you record it, and you can also bookmark it, which is nice. Now on to our Zeus. So once again, security link on this vehicle. So we'll go in there. And you'll notice once we get on the main landing page, we have 26 different modules on this vehicle detected. Things like dosing modules, drivetrain control, HVAC, and things that you wouldn't pick up on the ProLink. So that's like I said, it's going to be the right tool for the job, and you may need more than one tool. There's the rest of the modules there as well. So if we go into engine, let's look at data. So as far as data, on this tool, it's separated out into 3 different categories. So in the engine category, there's 200 PIDs to choose from. On the exhaust category, it's 52. And then on the transmission, it's 128. So it's over 300 PIDs that are available in the ECM on this. Wasn't able to count it up on the other one, but they're fairly close, pretty comparable. The amount of PIDs that they cover. It's just on the ProLink, it's separated out a lot more in a different category. Also on Zeus, Solus, Apollo, Triton, what have you, the light duty tools, you can select PIDs from across lists on the majority of the manufacturers as well. So you could put all the data up to 250 PIDs all in one place. So if you wanted to choose more from exhaust, transmission, and stuff. As far as functional tests are concerned, there's our output controls, on and off type of thing. There's that lift pump again. System tests are going to have catalyst efficiency, DPF replacement, stationary DISA, which would be a regen, BGT, pre-align. And if we go into def tests, there's some more tests in there. And then we go into transmission as far as functional tests. Remember, we had just pretty much the solenoids and stuff. So there we go. Also in the system tests in the transmission, there's a quick learn function, which is useful after you do transmission work. Now that wasn't listed on the ProLink. And then as far as ABS or functional tests, remember how we had our valves and stuff. So we have ATM tests. There's our different inlet valves, outlet valves, pump, etc. So functional tests fairly comparable. PIDs fairly comparable. Number of modules covered, not even close. Really, if you want to get into like the ADAS or body control stuff, things of that nature, you're going to be wanting to use one of the more light duty tools for those. And then if you want to get into the it's like air brakes and things like that, you would need to use, say, the Pro. So let's go live on the tool right now, and we will take a walk through on the Zeus and the ProLink and see what we can find out. All right, here's my Zeus, and I have a 2016 Ford F450 loaded in here. You can see all the different modules. Like we said earlier, the ProLink's going to have engine, transmission, the main ones. But if you need to get any of these other ancillary modules, you would need a light duty tool like this. So let's do a quick code scan. I got a code programmed in here as well, just to see what we kind of get. Covered 29 systems, and then we have this reductant heater circuit. So of course, in this case, I'm on a Zeus Plus, so we have intelligent diagnostics. So I can just go to diagnose, and it's going to bring up my code specific, vehicle specific information. Now there's obviously not nearly as many F450s out there as there would be like a 350 or a 250. So that's why we see a smaller number of results. We'll actually look at the repair orders on there a bit. But you see no TSBs, a couple top repairs there, got code specific data, code specific functional tests, got a component test too. We do go up to class 4 on our component tests between the different models. If we did like a 550, it's not there, but I suppose the 450 parts would be pretty much the same. But things like reductant heaters and stuff like that. And then if we come down to the bottom, is definitely SureTrack information. 1,400 confirmed fixes on this. So that's a pretty high number of very common code, I guess, on that. Some more related fixes. And then if I go to link to ShopKey, see it comes up. And I get my search results. And then actually, let me go back to, let me do the tag heater. Cabin chassis. All right, so we can do our real fixes, top repairs, OEM testing. It's going to walk you through how to test it. Flowchart. Got a component testing will be with that. Wiring diagrams too. So we have our wiring diagrams where it drops you off on the right page with the right component. And then you can go to where you need to go on the wiring diagram. Right, so we can see connector views and such with that. R&I, remove, or R&R, remove, replace, right? Special tools that we need. Show you a bunch of pictures. I like how manufacturers have finally decided to go with color pictures. It's been a nice change in the last 10 years or so, at least. When they decided to change that, it's pretty nice. So there's how to walk through and test on that. That's stuff that I've shown you all before, right? So it's your standard workflow. Do a code scan, walk through. Oh yeah, I was gonna see how many repair orders. So yeah, 6,044 repairs versus a more common vehicle. You get 20, 30, 40, even 100,000 plus repair orders. So it's not the most common vehicle, judging by that, but it's a 16 F450. Let me even do this. Let's do this. Let's change it to a 350 and see the difference. So if I went just down to a 350, which is your more common, goes up to 8,352, right? 2,000 more repair orders on them. So it's year, make, model, and engine. It goes all the way down that far in shop. So, all right, let's pull up the ProLink now. All right, so here's the ProLink. You can see fairly simple on the layout. We have vehicle scan and vehicle history. You can scan a vehicle right out of history. You can actually see a lot of information that you got off the vehicle when you did scan it. There's settings, applications. If I go in there, nice thing about that is it'll show you what's available on the tool or available to upgrade. You can actually upgrade right on the tool as well. It takes a second to get in there. There we go. So if you have any upgrades, it's going to show on the left. Any available apps that haven't been installed are going to show up as well. Anything coming soon. And anything installed on the tool. So you can see the Allisons are registered, the cats, free trials. So 10 free trials on each software. So even if you don't have that software package and a vehicle comes in and you need to scan it, you'll be able to do that. Hino International looks like there's trials on there. So try it out. It's kind of a gauge just to see whether or not you'll need it too, right? So you can see, oh, well, I use that 10 times in a week. I guess I need that software, right? Exit out of that. And then I need to get into my demo vehicle. Normally we'd go into vehicle scan if I was actually hooked up to something. You do heavy duty or light and medium truck from here. But in this case, the demo is under support and then troubleshoot. And then we have a demo scanner. It's going to scan through the vehicle. It's going to detect what modules it finds. In this case, we have 2. So engine and brakes. We'll hit OK. Then it's going to go through and scan the vehicle. Check for codes. It's the first thing it does. And then it'll bring up our faults. Now, remember how I said the codes are laid out different on medium duty, heavy duty trucks depending on what it is. So we have our SPN and FMI, and then down here we have our PID and FMI, and then over here we have our SID and FMI, depending on what unit it's in and how it's communicating with the vehicle. So for example, if I wanted to pull up more information on this EGR, though, this is kind of cool. So if I pull up my EGR, it's going to load information on it. Okay, so there's my description. If there was freeze frame, that would be available as well. And then ProLink Repair Connect. So I can actually go into Repair Connect. If you have a subscription to Repair Connect, which you can, it'll allow you to go through and choose. So in this case, it chooses the vehicle. I hit go. Then it's going to load the trouble code information. It's going to link with Repair Connect and actually bring that information down the tool. So you can see we got code description. And then up on top, we have testing specs, etc. So I'm going to go to testing. It's going to give us a couple different component tests we could do. So in this case, there's no information there. Specs, any specifications needed. Any specifications. Wiring and locator. So we can have locator, where's the EGR pressure sensor. It's going to load an image of that. It's going to show us where it's located on the vehicle. And then we have connector view, say. So if I wanted to load a connector view, it's going to load like that. And then wiring diagrams. In the case of Repair Connect, wiring diagrams aren't point to point, so you're going to see just the wires that you need. So we have 3 wires from the engine control module to the EGR pressure sensor. We could view it full screen, we can print, we can zoom in and all that. If we go to remove and install, it's going to tell us how to do that. So it's going to walk us through the OEM information on that. There's my removal, cleaning and inspection, installation, etc. So you can see a lot of information there just on the engine code. Now I'm going to go back to my faults, and you see down the left-hand side, we also have our modules. So in this case, we have 2. So I can go into engine, it's going to give me my data. And so you can go through and scroll through the data and see what it's doing. Brakes, same thing, data list, calibrations. It's going to bring you, we only have calibrations for the engine in this case. Calibrations. So you can set your road speed, engine protections, tests. It's going to load through engine tests. Gives us this big yellow screen that says to avoid personal injury, observe all safety precautions and operator and service manuals, put vehicle in park or neutral, chalk wheels, etc. And hit OK. And then you see there's a cylinder cutout test in this case. Now on a real live vehicle, of course, there'd be way more robust tests that are available. You can do it either automatically or manually over here. Then all I got to do is hit start, and then it'll just cycle through and turn them on and turn them off. And then you can see how the RPM would change and the engine load would change there just in this example test. So it's got a lot of features and functions. Like I said, more specific to the higher weight vehicles. And then if I want to just quit out of here, I hit the menu, go to end session, and then it goes back to the home screen. So that is medium versus light duty versus heavy duty scan tools. And with that, that is our time here today. So make sure you tune in for new diagnostic content every week. We will be premiering a new video every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time. So make sure you check it out on the YouTube channel. If you're watching, of course, you would be watching this on YouTube, but make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, ring the little notification bell so you know anytime we post new content. And it's youtube.com/SnapOnDiagnosticsUK. With that, time for questions. If you have any questions, just feel free, once again, if you're watching this on a premiere, just leave it in the live chat and we'll answer those. Otherwise, leave a comment under the video and we will get to those as we monitor those comments as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to learning a little bit more about how you might be able to be more efficient at diagnosing vehicles using some of the information that we've given you today. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Hopefully you can watch and see you on any of our other videos. Have a good week, have a good night, and take care.